having with him. He is a professional, but we're going to invite Mr. Richard Albert's son to come up and present our speaker.
So we're Live a Life is honored to be sponsoring this tonight. And for those of you who never heard of us, we're a statewide nonprofit started 25 years ago with a mission to strengthen marriages and families. And we teach relationship skills at every age and stage of life to help people learn how to love well. We provide relationship education to middle school and high school students, dating and engaged couples, married couples, families, and couples in severe crisis in 32 states, 13 countries, and you can check out our booth in the back. FSU coach Mike Norvell is going to be our guest speaker at our Family Champions Banquet on April the 10th. We've got some invitations on your table. If you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you. Tonight's speaker is a sportscaster most of you know from both ABC and ESPN. He currently serves as a play-by-play announcer for Holy Moly. Joe Tessitore's broadcasting style has its own nickname, the Tess Effect. And he has produced some ESPN documentaries. His son was a kicker at Boston College, and I learned tonight that he got to announce one of those games, which I thought was pretty cool.
He also lost to Florida State 4 straight times.
Yeah, he lost to FSU 4 straight times, yeah. So, Sports Illustrated named him twice as a finalist for the Sports Media Person of the Year. He is widely regarded as one of the most versatile sports broadcasters in America. He's from New York and graduated from Boston College Carroll School of Management. And he's married to his longtime girlfriend, Rebecca, for more than 25 years, and they have 2 children. I'm sure that Joe is keenly aware that he is speaking to a very fair, reasonable, objective, unbiased audience of friendly, yet rabid FSU fans tonight, so give him a heads up on that. We expect a lively question and answer period. And there might be 1 or 2 casual questions for you about your thoughts regarding our undefeated FSU football team. And we're going to invite you to share some of your perspective about what FSU failed to do this year to earn a spot in the college football playoff. So we can't wait to hear your answers to some of those questions. But because FSU fans are classy, and we are good sports, I am sure you're all going to join me to give him a very warm welcome to Joe Tessitore.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Everybody sit down. This is great. Although I do have the feeling it's like sitting at the free throw line in a college basketball game, being distracted by both my man here. Look at this T-shirt over here. Stand up, you in the captain. Look at this shirt. So there's that. But then better than that, if you really want to be distracted, is Jimmy. Jimmy, stand up. Johnny. Sorry. Johnny. Well, I mean, this is unbelievable here. Johnny, this is unbelievable. Speaking of things you called you, boy, I mean, you say it's been a real pleasure. If that's a real pleasure, I want to know what a pain is for you. Wow. Listen, I know everybody's had a chaotic 48 hours through the weekend, through today. I am really honored to be here. But with all of the billion-dollar corporate BS of what this whole sports entertainment thing has become, when I sit here and these tremendous high school students, listen, I know it's a school night, whatever, people got to run out the room. If you're one of the high school football players, please stand up one more time right now. Stand up, I want to give you a and here's what I want to say. We make so much out of this and that, and the college football playoff, and NIL, and all this. Take a seat, relax, we'll have a nice chat. And all this stuff, and at the end of the day, you listen to these young men get up here, and you hear the role that coaches play in their life, and you realize that football matters greatly. It matters greatly in our culture, in our society, of forging young men of great structure and discipline and becoming pillars of society, and even if it's nothing more than getting through high school and going on and have a steady job and being a good husband and good father, it friggin' matters. And the rest of this BS really doesn't at the end of the day. Trust me on that. That matters when you hear young men honored and hear their gratitude and you see them with their football coaches and thanking their football coaches and talking about having men of strength in their life, because our society is grossly lacking in having strong male figures that impact young men. So I'm thankful for all football coaches and the response I see in this world. And on that note, it is so great. The first person I see when I walk in was Coach Fisher, and to see Ethan honored tonight, that's just awesome stuff. So my wife and I are going to make a donation to that Kids First Foundation. So yeah, I made a beautiful trip up I-75 today. I'm a Collier County guy, but I like Leon and Keon County, which I thought was great this year. So I drive up I-75, I listen to podcasts, I make a million phone calls, and I can give you a critical review of every bathroom at a Cracker Barrel on I-75. So, and yes, I'm the son of an Italian immigrant who came to this country who couldn't speak English, and we went to New York. And I'm very thankful every day the fact that I get on ABC and ESPN and simply speak English and make my mother very proud. But you know what you call an Italian American from New York who actually lives in Florida full time? Smarter than the rest of them. A lot smarter. Before we talk some football, we tell some stories and we talk about this CFP stuff and maybe have a few laughs. I just love being in a room of people who are very proud and very passionate and very aware of tradition and legacy and show energy and bring great value to the sport of football. And every time, and through my years, 25 years of broadcast, I've done so many Florida State games, like that great game in the Superdome last year against LSU on a Sunday night on ABC. That was a thriller. Or a game I can remember a few years ago with Coach Bowden walking off the field and sitting there. And let me tell you, when you do a production meeting back then with Coach Bowden, you are very aware that you're in an arena of greatness and you're breathing it in. And so it's very special to be at Florida State and think about how proud these people are and the fans are and the legacy and what you stand on. But I know it's been a past 3-4 days of very high highs and very much sucker punch lows, but you're here, and you're proud supporters, and you're of a world-class tradition, and that matters, and I love seeing it. So give yourselves a big hand for simply being in this room and honoring that tradition and that greatness and that legacy. And I also love the fact that this club sits here and equally celebrates FAMU. What a year. I mean, that's just awesome, awesome stuff. Listen, no matter how many years I've worked on this job, no matter how many world championship fights I've called, or the Kentucky Derby, or college basketball, or bowl games, and going all the way back and straight through my years on Monday Night Football and every Orange Bowl and Sugar Bowl you can name, I never discount what it means to be around greatness. And I can tell you for a fact that when I was sitting there at the team hotel this weekend, I was sitting there in the ABC broadcast booth in Charlotte, that I was definitely around greatness. And I saw number 5 take a 320-pound offensive lineman and pick him up and throw him into a quarterback and dismiss him into a veteran quarterback, and that was very special. But that wasn't the only greatness I saw. I saw an absolutely brilliant head coach and offensive coordinator switch things up and scheme to a wildcat when it mattered most, and watched Lawrence Toafili go 73 yards down the sideline and nearly jumped out of the booth. We had very little offense, and all of a sudden a coaching strategic scheme and change brought that about, and it was brilliant, and the kid responded. It was the second longest run in ACC championship game history. But that wasn't the only greatness I saw. I saw a linebacker play out of his mind relentlessly when he had to, when the game was on the line, where Bethune absolutely refused to have a sensational touchdown catch go through the process of the catch. And then a couple plays later, make an interception in the end zone that really, to me, was another one of these signature moments that seemed like they were coming up time and again with a defense playing the best I've seen a defense play this year. But that wasn't the truest greatness that I saw in Charlotte this weekend. the greatness that I saw happened many hours before Jesse Palmer and I went over to the stadium. And I'm sitting there, we just got out of our production meeting, and I'm walking through the hotel lobby, and there's a young man who wasn't acting very young. He was acting very wise, in fact, and he was acting very aware, and he was acting beyond his years. And he was sitting in a wheelchair, and he was in the midst of an attention-feeding frenzy. And he was very, very aware and very, very special, because number 13 is very special. And Jordan Travis knows that that simple push in that wheelchair from where he was in the lobby to trying to get to the elevator bank was going to come with a price of a lot of time and a lot of effort. It just was. But he did not view it that way. Not at all. And listen, he's coming off a surgery. He's in an awkward spot. And he was very, very giving. He viewed each and every chance to listen and to engage with a young fan or some older fans, or just an appreciative well-wisher like myself as a chance to give thanks and to act like the champion that he is. And I was watching it, and I watched it for many minutes, and it went on. And he took every picture, and he listened to every attaboy, and he encouraged every young person who approached him. And he even listened to me for a brief moment, because I felt compelled, obviously, to check in on him and to wish him well. And we had a very nice exchange, and I let him know that I was once in the position that he was in. I was taken off a football field in an ambulance. I had my leg snapped in half with my foot dangling. I had reconstructive emergency surgery. And what I shared with him, and by the way, I was not a good football player. Let's get something straight. My son was the good football player. I was the hack who just was trying to play hard and be something. But I said to Jordan, I said, the one thing I took away from having a catastrophic injury and 3 surgeries that followed in a year, and being in a wheelchair and a year on crutches in my life, was that I have never met any truly great man who hasn't overcome incredible adversity. That I've met numerous front runners. I've met every celebrity and every champion that's been a front runner, that everything just broke their way and they were God-gifted with both size and speed or ability or talent, and they were front runners. And I often look at them and I don't necessarily think of themselves as great, but every great man I've ever met has overcome adversity. And we talked about that and assured him of that. And what I saw in Jordan Travis on that day, and I've noticed this with him before in covering his games, is a young man of great character with unselfish greatness. And that's a very unique trait and characteristic. And then I reflect on the quote he gave a couple days ago and his reaction to the unthinkable exclusion. And for a young man to say, I wish that I broke my leg earlier in the season so y'all could see this team much more than a quarterback, I don't want to hear him say that. I mean, enough said on that. That's the kind of greatness I saw this weekend. And that's why when many times during the broadcast, I tried to bring about the phrase of finish for 13 and really punch that as the war cry that was being put forth, because that really mattered. And I'm not sure where he is right now, where his whereabouts this week, but in this room alone, if you respect that, I think we should applaud him and finish this. All right, how many in this room, when you were a teenager or in your 20s, whatever, or even nowadays, listen, my wife, my entire family, we came over from Italy, we were in pizzerias and fish stores and bakeries, but how many worked in food and beverage, or were at a bar or a counter place, or served, or bus tables? Raise your hand if you worked in a restaurant. All right, so here's what we're going to do for some gratitude. All the folks that were here, we still got some people here. Let's give a big hand to our wait staff, our servers, our busboys. I always sit back and I marvel, and we have these beautiful celebrations, and these folks are so kind enough to sit back and serve us all night long and get here many hours, so we're so grateful for them. I don't know, my broadcast partner is grateful that I had a nice conversation with Mickey Andrews. Jesse Palmer says to me throughout the year he still has flashbacks and nightmares for what Mickey Andrews did to him. And boy, oh boy, I think Jesse's lucky that Verse and Peyton weren't playing back then either. It was just the bullware was crushing his mind back then. I'm very grateful to work with Jesse. I think about all the broadcasters I've worked with through the years and all the different sports I've worked on, and Jesse's a very, very dear friend. But, you know, from Todd Blackledge, years with Todd, my Monday Night Football crew, to my boxing crews through the years in horse racing, the spectrum of working from college basketball broadcasters down to a jockey like Jerry Bailey, and, you know, and boxers, and all the live event shows. Coach Holtz, you mentioned Coach Holtz. I can remember Coach Holtz spitting all over me for years as I'm sitting next to him, and Pollock, but now I got Jet Set Jesse, the host of The Bachelor, and boy, he's so handsome and debonair, and you sit there and you got to take pictures with this guy every week. Boy, oh boy. And then I used to be in the booth next to Matt Millen, who's the total opposite. For a younger generation, Matt Millen was part of the old school Raiders. He's a lovely, brilliant man. He's a great American patriot. He's also a great American badass and part caveman. Where Jesse, I sit there and I juxtapose my years, Matt Millen and Jesse, where Jesse could, you know, name you every French wine and how to use the 6 different forks that you're being served escargot. And Millen would walk into a football office and open a pizza box as we're walking into coaches' offices, and he's chewing on pizza as oil's going down the front of him as he's shaking hands with guys like Coach Fisher. But I thought of Millen yesterday with the end of the Pac-12 and some of the games we would do out there. And we had that one guy, the popcorn man you may have seen, who's eating popcorn in the rain as he's sitting in the stands, and the crazy times we've had. But we can get into it now if we want to, of what we're all a little bothered by and tweaked by in this room when it comes to college football. But I did want to share with you some warm memories and my thoughts overall on your team, the character of Jordan, these high school athletes, because to me, everything else is just sports entertainment at a certain point. And I assure you that years from now, when the current players are up on this stage, when the current players are high school coaches, when the current players are fathers and husbands, that the greatest flashpoints in their life are not going to be being upset on a Sunday afternoon, but it's going to be the traits, characteristics, pillars of strength that were forged here at this university with a community like this, and not some BS of what they were watching on ESPN on a Sunday afternoon. That I assure you of, and that's what I wanted to honor in this room here tonight. All right, so here's how it's going to play out when all the dust settles, right? Bama's going to beat Michigan. Texas is going to beat Washington. Florida State's going to beat Georgia, and the Noles are going to be the only undefeated Power 5 champion left. Okay, so I guess we're done here, right? We're all set. Right? And it's going to be like back in the old days where they would give out one champion over here, another champion over there, and say, well, there they are. They're the ones standing. So everybody's going to ask my opinion in recent days about the CFP selection process. And I want to be honest, they screwed themselves. And they were really screwed no matter, just as much as they screwed Florida State. They put themselves in a position where this is what they built. It was flawed from the beginning. I can remember when the process began. I would tell you my single biggest issue is that they applied different logic and various questions to be answered to the various teams they ranked. So, for many years they established a precedent that we knew, and the precedent was most deserving and the valuing of conference championships and undefeated. And then they went to these teams and they said, oh, here are the teams we have to rate. And for some reason, Michigan and Washington got put in this bucket of the way things used to be done. And they weren't really scrutinized and they weren't really looked at. And then Florida State got lumped into here where we're going to change the criteria and we're going to use what we said we were always going to use, but we never really used it, and just had the subjectivity of using the word best, which anybody can define any which way. So that's what got me the most, is evaluating those next 3 teams with subjectivity as to who you feel is the best team. And I don't know, I thought it was sort of a floating guide a bit. And I never understood this weekend why we just all of a sudden made the assumptions and just said, well, Michigan and Washington, you're over here, and then let's scrutinize everybody else over here. And then, oh God, what are we supposed to do with Georgia? Yeah, we forgot about Georgia. Just put them at number 6. That's what it felt like to me. that it was vague and it was changing and that the same system wasn't applied to every single team. And that's tough because if you read through their language that they were tasked with does have the ability to apply that subjectivity, to sit there. And for those of you that were watching the game and not in Charlotte, at some point you probably heard me say on air, I do not like applying this college basketball mentality to college football. It's not applicable. It doesn't relate. When we sit there in college basketball, oh, their starting center is out, so let's go from the 1 seed to the 3 seed, or make them, they should have been a 2 seed, but let's make them a 5 seed. That's not what the sport of football is. The sport of football is find a way to win. Do what you have to do. Coaches figure it out. The other day, a bunch of coaches turned to their defense and said, guys, you got to kick some ass here now. We're going to send an 18-year-old kid out on the field. We understand there's going to be limitations. They played at a level that I assure you, the other 4 teams that are in the playoff would kill to have a defense play at. That was as sensational a championship level as I have seen. Do I think the other 4 teams are undeserving? No, I think they're deserving of playing for the playoff, as is Florida State. Do I think that Georgia's still one of the best 4 teams in the country? Yes, I still think. If I'm saying Georgia, yes, I still believe Georgia, the winners of 29 straight, with that talent, who just scratched and clawed in a championship-level contest against Alabama, is probably one of the 4 best teams. But if we want to combine best and deserving, we've set that precedent as to how that works, and we understand what that means. And this is the first time, all of a sudden, it didn't. And we understand also that college football is a political organization, a business organization, a billion-dollar business organization, and it comes with certain unique parameters to it. By the way, this would have been a college football expanded playoff year had we not had certain people within the sport, and the leadership of the sport, dig their heels in and get angry over certain circumstances. It would have and was set to be agreed to this year. And it wasn't. So the leadership that's very, very upset in certain offices had every chance to make this a 12-team playoff this year, which we all want, which still needs to be fixed a little bit, desperately, because if you think it's bad now, wait till next year with the current language when one of the top 4 seeds must be a conference champion. Must be a conference champion. So that means that this year we would have an SEC champion, a Big Ten champion, let's say we have an ACC champion, and then we would have to turn to the new Big 12, where if you put in the math of this year, that would be Arizona would be a top 4 seed with a bye, an automatic win into the 2nd round, because we're trying to please conferences and get this thing approved. So even the system that's going in next year, to me, needs to be tweaked and changed already. How would you feel right now having Arizona as one of the top 4 seeds with an automatic win into the next round? Like, listen, there's always going to be complaints. This is the biggest we've ever had. And it's understood and justified why. I hope that brings clarity as to what I think. And so you know, when I'm sitting there broadcasting a game, my whole week is spent doing nothing but nonstop prep and communication with your coaches and players and writers and reading every article and watching film and trying to put ourselves in position to properly document the game and celebrate the players, the team, the championship properly. And on Saturday, it was a very fine balance of documenting the game in front of us, celebrating the accomplishments, while acknowledging what the national interest is, acknowledging why people are watching this game beyond the Florida State and Louisville fans, and how that game was becoming the fulcrum, was becoming the pin in the grenade that's getting pulled for complete and utter chaos. So I'm happy to do Q&A. I'm also happy to go back to a bar and drink a lot of tequila. By the way, I'm not joking. Either way, it doesn't matter to me. I'm Italian. We make for very long evenings. If you want to drink Sambuca, we can do that too. In the far corner next to the beautiful palm trees that look like the back of my house, what do you got?
think the playoff committee misjudged the blowback?
Oh, no, I don't think they care. I think they really go into that room, they make their decision, they walk out of that room, and then after the fact, yeah, I don't think they were going to make a decision based on the blowback or the reaction. Listen, it's three of the biggest rabid fan bases in the history of sports. You're going to piss one of them off, right? If you're bringing it down to Texas, Alabama, or Florida State, you're going to upset people and you're upsetting the ones that didn't lose a game, which is really difficult to swallow, at least with the other two. You can say, hey guys, you step out on the field every single week, you got the opportunity to win. There's one day you didn't. I mean, listen, I don't cover Michigan. I'm not that close to Michigan. So it's not like I was in the weeds of it day in and day out of being on top of every single detail. I don't like it. I know what goes on in the sport. I also know the line that was crossed greatly there. And you have to sit back and say, are they an eligible team or an ineligible team to participate in the postseason at the end of the day, and then just grade them as a team. So that was people far beyond, getting into investigations beyond football. I analyze football, but if they had come to a conclusion and said, hey, they're not eligible to play in the postseason this year, then we all move on and we rate the teams that are.
As a play-by-play, do you appreciate the effect, sort of like as a Walter Cronkite, you and Kirk and Chris and everyone, the effect that y'all have?
You just compared me to Walter Cronkite? My family is laughing so hard right now. They're already laughing before I tell them that. Dude, I grew up at the racetrack in New York, betting on the...
Do you appreciate the effect that you have on the narrative around...
Yes, I'm very aware of the word choice and how we use, and we're very conscious of that. That's why I wake up every day and try to put in the work to prepare ourselves as best as possible and meet with our production team every week, from the graphics that every day, the graphics they put up, to the editorial content that's hitting the screen. But yes, we're very aware of the power of our words and how that plays. Yes.
Because we saw sort of a narrative that was put in place even before Jordan Travis's injury, that there was a narrative starting way before.
Well, I didn't do a Florida State game prior to the championship. I didn't do a Florida State game prior to the championship.
I'm not saying you.
Oh,
saying
yeah.
You and others.
Oh, the subject coming up, because it's in the language of the CFP. Yeah, how do you judge it? Yeah. No, there's no doubt that it became a talking point throughout. I spoke up the week before when we were doing, actually, the Jordan Travis injury happened while I was live on the air. And when we did the cut-in, I actually on air said, we shouldn't show that again. That's heartbreaking. And I actually almost got sick to my stomach. And then later in the show, when it started bubbling up about, well, how do you view them now? Jesse and I both said the college basketball line I actually said on the air numerous times in recent weeks. So I am very aware of the word choice we use. But I also think there's a difference between the words we use when we're broadcasting a game and the words that the comfort and freedom people have of how they speak when they're doing studio shows. When you're broadcasting a game, I think you have to be extremely judicious and thoughtful with every word you use and understand what you're doing as really a documentarian in that moment, compared to fostering debate and creating entertainment for talk about stuff. That is not my role when I'm broadcasting the game. I don't know if that answers your question. Look at how well dressed he is, and the stash is awesome.
Appreciate it.
What advice would you give a young man like myself who would like to become a sports broadcaster?
Oh man, I don't know. I look at my life and sometimes I get to ask that a lot. I think it's like saying, hey, I want to go to Hollywood and be an actor. And it's like, be a great writer in every way, and not just a actual writer, but a great broadcaster and presenter is a great writer. And the other thing is, I had this conversation with a young man who's studying here and is try to be as authentic as you could be. from the way you speak to the way you act to the way you think. I'm not that much different in person than I am on TV. In TV, I'm conscious of the fact I'm on TV, but the way I speak and how I present is just authentically who I am. And I don't know that we have that all the time in television, especially with like teleprompter jockeys. But, and you gotta know, when the red light goes on, you either can or you can't. You're gonna feel it in your chest. So getting those reps on radio or podcasts, there are more opportunities now than there were when I'm an old man now. But, there were 3 TV stations when I started, and I got a 3/4 inch deck off my shoulder, and I'm carrying a tripod. But just doing it and being a great writer of any sorts, from writing, especially writing with economy of words that are impactful and punch, whether that's a 30-second scene set to get us on the air like we had the other night going into a championship event, or whether that's 10 seconds of getting me the commercial break. Make every moment count with great use of words and economy of words, which is the opposite of when you're at a sports banquet. It's not economy of words. There's far too many words, which is what we're doing right now. What's going on?
Not that we're conspiracy.
When you lead with not that we're conspiracy theories, and then you're like, let's get into the alien thing. This is good. And he's looking at his phone, scrolling as he's saying this thing. Not that, and this guy's recording me so that it's like, guys, it's football. We got people that got cancer diagnoses today. We got people who are suffering from poverty. We got young men who are telling me they're inspired because they're overcoming hardship by their male role models, right? Let's have perspective here.
All right, Reggie, questions, not statements.
Oh, it's not a statement, it's a question.
Okay.
When Herbie said on, and this is just follow up.
You know him.
No.
Oh, Herbie, I thought maybe because the Herbie.
Oh. When he was saying on GameDay, when they have the big screen, and
Yeah.
they have the thing, and he goes, this is the day that we're playing North Alabama, before Jordan got injured. He said he would keep FSU out and put, I think he said Alabama in if they beat UGA.
He was probably asked his opinion.
And that's right.
Yeah.
Now, so he had already decided that, but he's either lying then or he is blaming Jordan's injury now. So I guess the question.
Well, I guess he was asked at that point, even before the injury, like, okay, if Alabama runs the table and beats this team, that team, and then conquers #1 Georgia and wins the SEC,
Right.
and it came down to those who gave you the answer. That was his opinion.
But then, after Jordan got injured, then he said that's the reason that they were,
Question, Reggie.
they got out. So I guess.
Well, I think at that point he's answering, hey, this is now the issue that the CFP is going to be dealing with.
Do you think it's appropriate to use a player's injury just to accomplish a predetermined goal of including the SEC champion into the playoffs?
Oh, come on, man. What do you want me to say? Our predetermined goal.
I got an easy
I don't even know what to tell you there. Like, what? The process is the process. I've told you what my thoughts are, but like, if this is like a gotcha moment, I mean,
Do you think the CFP wants ESPN?
it's Kirk telling you his opinion, and
I
then
don't listen to Kirk Herbstreit for anything. They don't give shit at all about it. So that's not what happens. Okay, that's forget. So get off of that. You have an opportunity to play the #1.
I got you, John. I got you. I'm not sitting here. Let's get something straight. I get a paycheck from ESPN. I work for my wife and 2 kids. That's who I work for. Okay. I work for Jesus Christ, my Roman Catholic faith, my wife, and my 2 kids.
This will be an easy one. Computers have come a long way, a lot of analytics and data today, and there's hard drives and software compared to 20, 30 years ago. Are we better off going back and letting the computers fix the
No.
teams?
No, I think we just have because, I trust guys like Mickey Andrews more than I trust like a TRS-80. Just have Mickey do it. Just maybe call up Mickey and take whatever for it. No, and how about this? How about we stop? The problem with college football is the regionalization, the fiefdoms, and how tribal it is, and the holding on to this idea of conferences when the sport bypassed that regionality long ago and needs to be funneled down to, all right, who are the 24, 32 teams that are actually competing for the national championship? Because it's not reality that in all these conferences, we got a little tier here competing, we got a mid-tier that's surviving, we got a bottom tier that really has no care to really compete for that. Just give me the 24 to 32 teams. Stop with the sham of student-athlete college football. It's professionalized football being played as representatives of universities. Have those 32 teams play, make it a league, and stop with this all. I mean, you got conferences that won't even exist next year. So the whole thing is vestiges of the past, trying to hold on to something that doesn't work when it's $1 billion industry with this much interest, with a guy filming every word I'm saying over here. And then what are you doing with that? What are you doing? Are you live streaming it? What are you doing? For what use? We're at a sports bank. We're all hanging out, celebrating young men, giving out awards like what? Like, we're not really this serious about this, are we? You're recording it for what use?
Yeah, we're serious.
I know you're serious in terms of our care and interest, but like, you know.
Keep the sport right.
Okay. Hey, what you got?
Hey, Joe, I heard you say earlier that kind of when it was boiling down to the end, it was Washington and Michigan in one bucket, and kind of everybody else in the other.
Yeah.
What made Washington and Michigan so unique to be in that bucket by themselves?
I have no idea. I'm not like, you know, we should bring in the 13 people. We'll do a great 30 for 30 like a couple years from now, where all of them get to speak when they're off the committee and we can hear everything that happened in the room. What I'm saying is it appears that they applied the old criteria for Washington and Michigan, and then what was always supposed to be the criteria of just best, subjective criteria for the next tier, right? So that was just my take, that it seemed like, you know, okay, that's the way we did it. All right, now for 3, 4, 5, and 6, let's. I'm not that smart if you haven't figured it out. I don't know.
I was waiting for you to say they were undefeated.
Well, they were, yes, but I'm not in the room as to how they decided, you know, the undefeated conference champions is the way we always did this thing, right? We overvalued conference championships. We knew it was a wink, wink. Yeah, you win a Power 5 conference champion, you're in.
What it all boils down to, they're playing with house money,
Yeah,
their own money.
the king has spoken. Yeah.
Ryan, why are there so many people on the committee that have zero background in football, zero experience in football, making these decisions?
I mean, that's been brought up before with some.
Making these decisions. If I were going to go in to have surgery, I don't want a hospital administrator.
I want 13 expert doctors.
Exactly.
What? Dude, the Heisman Trophy is the biggest voting joke in the history of sports awards. 900 plus sports editors, writers, 870 of them they watch it on a surface level. Instead of just, all right, let's gather 60 of us who are in the sport day in, day out. Welcome, that's everything if you really examine it closely enough. Right? It doesn't, I'm not saying those 13 people don't care greatly and give it great effort and aren't people who are of great success in all various fields, who can't deduce things and analyze data. But yes, obviously we've had many of those, from people who are successful in business to college administrators, Condoleezza Rice, athletic directors. They weren't football coaches. They're not sitting there being able to tell you what the difference between an over or under or a bearer or a 3 technique or a shaded nose or anything that Mickey knows like about. He could fall asleep, wake up in the middle of the night and tell you more football than, right? But there are people that both based on the way things work and representation and who they're representing, like any other organization. You ever sit on a board, a school board or a charitable board, or But I do believe they care greatly, and I do believe they're putting in the time, and I do believe they're putting in the effort and energy, and I do believe that everybody in that room is capable of reasoning and hearing cogent arguments that lead to a conclusion.
If you put me in a room of broadcasters,
Yes.
I've been in business forever.
I would listen to a damn thing you said. If you sat back and said, here's your rundown for the show, your commercial inventory, your load, your open, your bumps to break, your elements, your graphic producer package, everything. I'm like, thank you so much, I appreciate you. Great, take a seat, don't speak, we'll get this done. Which, by the way, probably happens with some of the strong coaches that are in that room. Like, I remember thinking to myself when Barry Alvarez was in the room way back when, you tell me somebody's turned to Barry and coach, like Barry Alvarez, both who Barry is and his personality, like I'm sure you're going to speak up to Barry and tell Barry that he's wrong, right?
Gene over here was standing.
Okay, go ahead.
I have a question. Who and how do they go about selecting the committee members?
You know, I don't know the exact process. I know it's they invite, and there's, you know, we're going to have a new head chair, and as Bill Hancock is retiring, but I don't know the exact process. By the way, that's not a show I'm on or something I cover. I'm like you, I consume it, right? I sit back and I watch it on Tuesday, I watch it on Sunday, I get ready to call my game. I'm not Heather Dinich here sitting there, you know, every day with a notebook filled with analyzing the 13 members and who they are, and what time they have their lunch in Dallas. I don't know the exact answer to that. I don't know that. I believe it's nomination, invitation, but I don't know the answer to that. Yes, sir.
Do you know which bowl you're doing, and outside of the 3 playoff bowls, is there 1 or 2 that we really should pay?
Listen, well, I don't know officially what bowl I'm doing, but I hope I'm in South Florida watching the 2 teams that are scorned and angry and ready to show who they are. That would be, to me, like thrilling. To like, you know, I'm a huge fan of the Orange Bowl. I live down there. Eric Palms, the head of it, is a very dear friend. I've called numerous Orange Bowls. I sort of grew up on the Orange Bowl, and as a Florida guy, I love the Orange Bowl, so I love the fact that it's the 2 teams that you look at this year and you say, okay, maybe they're actually better than the other ones. You know, I think it's a great game.
Did you go through the list, any other games that we really need to pay attention to because you expect a solid?
You know, I just scanned it the other day. There's some interesting matchups, and see how teams finish up. That Mizzou team, by the way, is much better than people realize. They are like, Ohio State's going to be in for something there. That little running back is unbelievable. So, in fact, when I was filling out my Heisman ballot the other day, I really took a hard left turn in filling out those 3 names compared to what the masses are doing. And when I think about Mizzou, that comes to mind. When I think about a player wearing garnet and gold, that comes to mind too. So, I'm not allowed to say who I voted for Heisman. I can't say who it is, but on my ballot is a player that lives very close by and is in this building. Oh, these have not been. This is just the welcome reception. As a SWAT guy stands outside, and the guy records every word I'm saying, as if tomorrow I'm going to be like, you know, scandal at Florida State. A play-by-play guy discussed the college football playoff. Yeah, what's up, man?
One Italian to another.
Sì, molto piacere. Sì,
Tiramisu.
di dove sei? E parla italiano napoletano o no? Sì, ciao, okay. E questa è l'americana. This is what we call in my culture, but I appreciate it. What's your last name, sir? Lovato? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. My eyes are worse than my hearing. My eyes are really bad. Well, molto piacere. Grazie. What was the question exactly? Canola? Oh, no. My favorite Italian pastry is actually a schiatella. A schiatella. It's like a little shell with all little layered pastry, crusty pastry all over. You bite into it, it crunches everywhere. My wife gets mad. There's stuff all over the place that I don't clean up. And the other thing is, just one Italian lesson. My beautiful friends here at Florida State. When we say cannoli, that's plural. It's a cannolo. Cannolo is one individual stuffed Sicilian, where you say cannoli. Due cannole e un cannolo. Cannolo. Grazie, molto piacere, buonasera. See, I'll do the rest in Italian and nobody can understand anything I'm saying. That's it. I've solved the riddle. This guy can take me all night long. He can get angry at me. They don't even know what I'm saying. bene, perfetto. Okay, what do we got?
My last name's Fiore, but I
E fiore, e succo di fiore. Okay, what do we got?
what is your favorite game or sporting event you've ever called?
I've called, so a lot of people associate me with mostly like the big moments of college football. Texas is back, folks, is not on the list, but I love the fact that it's mocked for the last 10 years that I said it in the double overtime win against Notre Dame. I've done great college football games. Some Florida State games I've done have been great. I've done great college football games. I've done great fights. But the most special moment, undoubtedly, was when Clemson was #1 in the country, playing on ABC during the COVID season. And the assignments came out, and the ABC 3:30 game that week was that pesky 5-1 Boston College team at Clemson. And my son came out on 4th down against Dabo's special teams unit, and I coached special teams for 4 years in prep school in Connecticut. And Coach, you're going to love this story because you're going to call my son and say, "You did that to your father?" Now, all week long, I watch film and I prep and I get ready for everything I'm doing. And my son's playing the #1 team in the country on ABC, and I had to call him. I said, "John, are you comfortable if I'm broadcasting the game? If Greg McElroy and I are the broadcasters of your game on ABC?" And he's, kickoff, punter, place kicker, holder. He does everything. He'll play special teams. Anywhere, anything. And yeah, and so he said, yeah, do the game. So I prep all week, and we talk all week, and I'm getting ready. He knows how much film I watch and how much I'm trying to get ready for the game and whatnot. And I called up Dabo and said, "Are you comfortable with me broadcasting? My son's playing against you." "Yeah." I said, "Listen, we're good. Everything's good." And all of a sudden, they're up on Clemson. It's just before halftime, and DC marches down the field. And they got a 4th and 5. I think it was at the 30-yard line. And so my son trots out. They're going to kick a field goal. But I know this kid, and he's apex predator alpha. I'm like, And I see him, and I see his head, and I see him look over, and I see him look at the safety. And then all of a sudden, I hear, "Elsa 42, Elsa 42. Oh my God, I don't even want to say his name. I just want to get through the broadcast. And of course, he runs under center, and he plays quarterback, and he hard counts, and here comes the safety into the A gap, and he gets him so bad. Offside, 1st down, Boston College, next play, touchdown pass to the corner. And I had to call my son, and in that split second, I decided we're very, gratitude and modesty are sort of the pillars, and humility are the pillars of our family. And so I just said, "Tessitore under center," and he's got all his Tessitore. And John Tessitore, who he's played every position, blah, 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 blah. I never acknowledged that it was my son. I just let the play happen. Until Greg McElroy came in and said, "You really had to prep hard for that one, huh?" And so that's my favorite game, my favorite moment, because of how unique it was and how special it was to see my son at that moment. Be able to do that. He had a very limited college career. He got to the top of the game, but then, you have just these flashpoints. Not everybody is a great Florida State Seminole who goes on to the NFL. Some people just make one fake play against Clemson, and that's the high watermark of their career. So, Coach, I go back to the locker room. They lose in the last minute. They got the lead because of John's play and the next kid's play, and they're going to beat #1 Clemson. And I prepped all week. You know how much film we watch and get ready? I prep all week. And I come out, I go, "John," I go, "you saw me watching film all week, and you know how much." I go, "You could have told me that it was in the playbook this week, that it was." And he goes, "Yeah, I forgot to do that for you." I go, "What? It cost me a whole week. You could have made me look so smart. You could have told me the play. You could have." The kid never told me that the fake field goal was in. But that's my favorite game. And I've done far better games and far bigger moments in heavyweight championship fights all over the world. And the Triple Crown at Belmont when Big Brown was undefeated, and great college basketball, great college football games, everything, and been with, had the pleasure of knowing all the greatest celebrities. Muhammad Ali's phone number was in my phone because of my years of boxing and all that stuff. But the opportunity to broadcast my son would be my answer.
getting us to embrace that as well.
Sure.
It's not too much, we're upset, but anyway, and you did a great job keeping it real for us. Thank you. I do want to ask a question about the possible seedy underbelly.
The what?
The seedy underbelly.
Oh, the seedy underbelly. This is good. Yeah. I like it. The seedy underbelly. I grew up in an Italian-American neighborhood in New York. You want seedy underbelly? Okay.
But this is when there's so much money involved. ESPN and Fox, Disney pay this much money.
Yeah.
Would it be crazy to think that they have a desired outcome, desired matchups to get the best return of investment? In other words, who are they influencing? Is it possible that they influence the CFP committee? Is it possible they influence the narrative that's in the studio? Is it possible?
I don't believe so. I mean, I've worked there for 20 plus years. I know every executive there, from programming to production. I know many people that are the administrators. I think much is just built in and tacitly understood. Like, you know, from a brand standpoint, there's, you know, I mean, we all understand the Alabama brand and who Nick Saban is and what the results have been. Just like one generation ago, we all understood who Bobby Bowden was and what Florida State meant and all of that. So, no, the answer to, from my perspective, my limited knowledge would be no. I understand how we want to connect the dots to all that, but no. Speaking of coaching, and I brought this up on the broadcast the other day, I think everybody in this room and everybody associated with the program deserves credit for allowing for the journey and the process here at Florida State to take its course. Because I'm sure the tenor in this room was very, very different the week after the Jacksonville State loss a few years ago, right? Like, very different. Like, the complaint now is we're 13-0 is your complaint. Like, that's a rich man's problem, okay? But you committed to a head coach, and by the way, you guys need to do this too. You want to just keep spinning your wheels and every 2 years hiring a new coach and then recruits go out the door and what? Like, if you believe in who you believe in, and you guys got like a really, really good one in Mike Norvell and his staff. Really. See, he's not recording this part where I'm complimenting Mike. I need a good local attorney. Who, when you make a 1-minute call, only charges you for 45 minutes. And that's why you can afford velour jackets. But when you commit to the process, and you commit to the man, and you believe, and you see it through, you get these kind of results, and that's what's happened here. Like, you guys just said, all right, we're going to give them the resources, we're going to give them the time, we're going to give them the belief, we're going to be supportive. We're going to scroll through phones with conspiracy theories. But that's what you guys did. And now you get the results. And now, like, if you look through the history of your place, it works out pretty good when you commit to a guy and you let him do his thing and you let it build and you let it build. You had the greatest football coach of all time because of that, right? So now you got one of the greatest of this generation because you let the thing bake. There's a lot of places not far away from here, easy drives from here, where they don't. All right, next, let's go. I wasn't talking about the drive down 1075 and getting off in Ocala and cutting through the backwoods to the horse farm. There's drives towards Alabama in the southeast region of Alabama where it juts up against Georgia, where you can do that too, on the plains in the loveliest village. Yeah. Yes.
How do you look at that in terms of the, I guess, the reset somewhat that occurs when you've got Stanford flying to
That's all survival stuff, just so the UCC can, like, everybody needs to survive. Think of it as a game of musical chairs, and we're all watching the chairs get, oh, I need a chair, right?
Even like UCLA, I think they're going to be in Skyway.
Yeah, with an $85 million check for doing that.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So as far as the UCC is concerned, we know we want to stop.
Yeah. but there's a lot of legal entanglement.
The fact that ESPN has us under this rank pressure.
Well, your commissioner, your conference does. Yes.
Well, because ESPN
Got them to sign it. They signed your conference, you president of your university, and the other presidents of the university said, that's wonderful, take that deal, we love it, great, sign it. Like, this is all the legal entanglements of the business of it. ESPN didn't put a gun to conferences' heads and say, you must sign this or else you're doing it. Like, this is where this stuff happens and festers, and like, it's not this, it's like just, we hear what we want to hear because we're tribal and we have colors on and we love our university and our team. I get it, dude. I wish that I had the legacy and tradition of Florida State. I went to Boston College, we don't get that, we just have the same colors. But, you know, so I get how proud you are. You want to be in the SEC. What do you want to be? You want to be in the Big Ten? Here's what you want to be. A year from now, you want to be in the ACC. Because when you win the ACC, you're guaranteed 1 through 4 and a first round bye. The second place team in the SEC, that'll now include Texas and Oklahoma, can be no higher than 5th. The second place team in the Big Ten can be no higher than 5th. If you win the Big 12 and you win the ACC, you're 1, 2, 3, or 4 by contract. It's going to be easier to accomplish the task next year.
We'll join the Pac-12 because there's only 2 teams there now.
That's what I would do. By the way, if I'm Oregon State and Washington State, like, I am putting my heels in the ground, I'm like, this is our conference, pay us, let's go. We got the contract, we got TV contract, we already know who's in the championship, let's do this. I'm good with that. Hey, in all honesty, I know this is like, when this thing went down Sunday, I had so many people from ESPN colleagues like, hey, aren't you speaking there Tuesday night? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I love going there. I love everything about Florida State. Great people, good times. Hugh's awesome, and he's hysterical, and he's a former comedy writer for my friend Rob Riggle. So, I've loved my visit here. I think it's very nice. I understand the passion and intensity, and I also understand that everybody in this room is just wonderful people who are keepers of this great unconquered torch, and I'm honored to be with you each and every time. So, I can't wait to be back here. Like, I hope I get your Orange Bowl. That would be awesome. And then I can't wait to be back here in September. Great. What time is it? 11 o'clock?
I thought he did terrific. We knew we were upset when he came and decided to come, and we appreciate each of you. I know that if you had any remaining questions, want to say hi, shake these guys' hands. John Stevens from the Gator Club. Come over and see Joe if you like. Y'all have a good night. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and we'll be in touch with you the first of the year. Go Noles, go Rattlers.